Does this sound familiar to you? Nobody will do this to me ever again. How could you do this to me after all I have done to you? I will never trust you ever again. I hate you for doing this to me. If you continue your relationships, whether it's a romantic one or friendship, whatever it is, by holding on to those emotions and never wanting to create a resolution, you will not only ruin your connections, but you will carry that with you for years and years. And this is not only unpleasant, but also unnecessary. So resentment is not just one emotion. It's like a container with different emotions inside, like fear, anger, disgust, sadness, and so on. All those emotions associated with being treated unfairly. So it's more like a state of being in pain as a result of perceiving that you have been treated wrongly, unfairly, and unjustly. And usually involves not feeling willing or able to accept something or someone that you reject. Now, resentment and distrust are like a married couple. They always walk together. Trust is the ability to rely on somebody else to capitalize on and consider your best interests. Now, if you have been treated unfairly, unjustly, or wrongly, that proves you that you cannot rely on them to capitalize on and consider your best interests. That's why resentment comes with so much distrust. One dreadful thing that comes from resentment is, for example, let's say that one person did something to you that caused you pain, like lying, cheating, stealing, but the other person regrets it instantly and apologizes to you and so on. And even if it hurts you badly, you say you forgive them. But after that, as soon as he does something suspicious to you, you throw him that past thing in his face, like, are you lying to me again? So even if it's not the case and that is not present anymore, your distrust still exists. And you are not only not allowing the other person to move on from that and make it up to you, but you will also never going to find peace within yourself. So this means that you will feel closed off around that person and kind of seeing him as an enemy, and you will expect them to betray you in the future. Experiences with being treated unfairly, not being considered by others, being disregarded, and having your boundaries violated in your childhood contributes immensely to your present feeling of resentment. And that's why it's so important to heal those traumas, because it allows you to then let go of the present resentment a lot easier. And of course, there is always a beneficial aspect to hold on to negative emotions and beliefs. Otherwise, they would not be there. And it would be easier for you to let it go. So as for resentment, is the unwillingness or inability to forgive. So for most people, they believe that letting go or forgiving means to let go of the unmet need. That is, to be treated fairly and justly in a way that creates trust. And because they don't want that, they will not let go or forgive. But you don't have to ever give up on having a just and fair treatment just to forgive someone. Another beneficial reason for resentment is that it makes you feel like you are a good person. When somebody did something to you that you consider wrong and they want to stay in your life and you hold on to that resentment, then they are now in a position where they have to make it up to you. So it's like they owe you something. Here is where people may say, because you did that, you have to do this and that. Now, if we feel unsafe in a relationship, especially unsafe to how people treat us, putting people in that position is putting them in a lower position and us in a more empowered position. So we try to gain safety through the feeling of power that doing that gives us. That becomes our guarantee of good treatment in the present and in the future. You can see resentment as a wall that a person uses to protect themselves and try to get their needs met indirectly. A person may also keep resentment as a personal reminder that I will never let that happen to me ever again. And here is where your sense of self, the ego, feels good about doing that. Ego has the need to be good and right because he believes that that is going to help you survive. So it's obvious that if somebody has to make up to you because he treated you unfairly, then you are in a victim role. And in today's societies, the victim is the good and right one, and the perpetrator is the wrong and the bad one. So the ego feeds that kind of concept through resentment. If you are struggling with resentment, the reality is that you are stuck in a loop between two emotions: the terror and fear that are associated with powerlessness, and anger and rage. Anger helps you to get out of the feelings of powerlessness. And to understand more about this loop and anger, you can watch my video about how to process anger. Now, what can you do if you feel resentment and you want to let it go? Step number 1. You have to become aware and know exactly what action made you feel resentful for that other person. So you have to dive deep inside of you and be really honest with you. Ask yourself, what happened to you that you felt was unjust or unfair? What did somebody do that they shouldn't have done? Or what did somebody didn't do that they should have done? And then ask yourself, how similar is that event with my past experiences? Do they feel the same? When did you felt like that in your childhood? If you have an unhealed trauma related to being treated unfairly and unjustly, this will repeat itself again and again and again until you are ready to face it and deal with the root issue. Step number 2. You will find that resentment and the blame that goes along with it feels better than self-blame and better than being blamed by others. Sometimes we can only let go of resentment towards others if we let go of the resentment that we hold towards ourselves. So ask yourself, is there something that you feel guilty about? Or some culpability in this situation that you can't forgive yourself for? Maybe it's an expectations that you have that you should have known better. It is important to also become aware on the part that you played in that event. And this may be the most difficult part because you have to be brave and let the proudness aside so that you can see clearly and take your part of the blame instead of only seeing that in others. And only then can you heal completely. Step number 3. If resentment is present, it means you cannot accept something. But don't confuse acceptance of something with this is what I should endure. But take a look at the situation that's causing you to feel resentful and ask the following questions. What am I unwilling to accept about this situation? Once you have answered that question, ask, why am I unwilling to accept that? If I accepted that, what would it mean or what bad thing would happen? Step number 4. If you hold on to resentment, it also means you are afraid of letting go. Even if you are so convinced that you really want to let go because it's better that way, there is a part of you that actually doesn't want to let go. Otherwise, it would be easy to do it. So ask honestly, what bad thing would happen if I would let go of this resentment today? For example, perhaps the answer might be, if I forgive him or her, I make what they did to me okay, and it's not okay. Or if I forgive him or her, they will not get how much they hurt me, so they will do that to me again. Or if I forgive him or her, I will never receive the justice and fair treatment that I need. If that is the case, I want you to never forget this, what I'm about to say. A person should give you fair treatment, love, and respect because they want you, because they see the value in you, and not because you hold something against them. That is not love. Step number 5. When we feel resentment, we feel powerless, and is also an indication that we do feel like a victim. Now, there are a lot of people and groups shaming the victim mentality, where they say you should never let yourself feel that. But in order for you to completely heal, you have to go through different stages of healing. There is actually no correct order in healing whatever emotional trauma. Your body will always tell you what is the next step for you to heal. So trust him in that. So this means that you can go from blaming others to blaming yourself to being the victim, and then to seeing all those perspectives as valid and so on. Don't ever be ashamed of being a victim. Just don't stay there for too long. That can easily trap you, and at the end you aren't able to move forward and heal completely. Once you are able to fully see and feel all the different perspectives, you will start to feel empowered. But just to let you know, a lot of people say, yeah, I understand all those perspectives, but if you still feel some negative feeling towards it, then it's because you haven't. And no matter how much you try to fool others, you can never fool your own emotions. They will always let you know the truth about yourself. Step number 6. Take the situation where you feel like you were treated unfairly and unjustly and wrongly, and try to find approval for what happened. Anything you can possibly think that is positive about that having happened. As hard as it may sound, do not take this as an invalidation of the pain. Simply do this practice for the sake of your own desire to feel better personally. Focus towards what happened in the way where you can agree with instead of disagreeing with it. Part of this process should involve looking at how the situation could have been worse than it was. This will help you naturally develop acceptance for what occurred, and this will also gain you a bigger picture perspective on things and will be a lot easier for you to then let it go. Step number 7. Try to express now what you have wanted to express in that moment that made you feel resentment. You can do this by talking in front of a mirror or just in your head by imagining the scenario again. And after that, ask yourself, did I not express the way that I felt about it when it happened because I was afraid of the consequences of doing so? What's the truth that you did not share? Then take an even deeper look at why you did not express those things. For example, you might have been terrified of rejection, or fearful of losing the connection, or you might have felt like it wasn't going to make any difference anyway. Step number 8. Meaning and expectations is the basis of suffering. What happens when we experience something where we feel like we are treated unfairly and unjustly? We add meaning to the experience, and not a positive one. So, to give yourself another perspective, I want you to figure it out how what happened is not personal. When unjust and unfair things happen to us, we take it personally. We never make it about what's going on the other person's life. But that perspective is also a crucial element to why we were treated unfairly. But this doesn't mean to make it okay for someone's wrongdoing. And take a serious look at your own expectations. Get clear on what you expect currently and communicate clearly to the other person, so that the other person can decide if they can accept that by staying with you. Step number 9. Get really clear about the impact that this resentment is having on your life. I want you to seriously think, if you keep this level of resentment, what would be the impact of that in your future? What areas of your life is it affecting? How much does that affect my relationships? If resentment comes from a traumatizing event in your childhood, I deal with this in a daily basis. So if you want, you can book a session with me to help you heal those past traumas events. Or if you feel like doing it on your own, there is a process from Teal Swan called the completion process that you can try on your own. But because this is really intense, most people have difficulty in doing it alone. But the important thing is to find a resolution to those traumatic events in order for you to heal completely. The truth is, resentment kills relationships. But it's not a monster or an enemy. Resentment is just a natural byproduct of having no resolution. So focus directly on creating that resolution, on feeling empowered and going in the direction of what you know now that you want. And all of those feelings that come along with resentment from the lack of resolution will no longer occur. I hope this helped you in some way, and as usual, I wish you a really nice week.